Hello. Today we're going to cover how to create a template in Pulse Marketing. The first and most obvious way is right here in the top corner, create a template. This is going to be a completely blank and brand new setup. It won't have any content in the email body or any formatting or anything else that our normal emails have pre-set up for you. This version's great if you're going to use a banner or a poster kind of image for your content, or if you have somebody designing your email content for you and you want to be able to just paste that in. For most people, the other way that we're going to cover is going to be generally the better way because it's simpler, and also because you don't have to kind of create quite as much content in the email. And the other way that we do this is by copying a current template that we have. And you can use the preview button on any of our emails to find something that's similar to what you're looking for. Once you do, you'll go here to copy and confirm. And this is going to make a duplicate of that original email. And you'll have that right below the original, and it's going to show with a bunch of numbers at the end to indicate that the template that we're looking at here is a copy of the original. So we'll select the copy that we have, and we can choose one of our lists that are existing if we already know the group of people or groups of people that we're going to send to. So this email might be a closed clients kind of follow-up for maybe like a refi situation or something like that. We may also want to put in the people that are pre-qualified if they might want to find a different product or something like that. But we can choose any combination of people through our lists here. People show up multiple times between the lists. It won't matter because we'll clean those out so that they only receive one email per unique email address. Once we've chosen our group of people, we're going to set up the content here. So our template will probably need to change the name. So this could be our refi email, and our subject line may say something like don't forget to refi. Now we're going to choose the role that we're sending the email from. We can use our default, which is whatever we put in this box, but generally we'll use the loan officer. And then we'll make sure that this is, some sort of box that we have, just in case we don't know who the loan officer is through Pulse. Maybe it's an old employee or somebody just not currently using the system. We'll send the email out using whatever's in the default email address, just to make sure that the content goes out to everybody. So generally, this should be something that's managed or a real box rather than a junk or do not reply kind of email address. Although that's acceptable because we take any email format, just not recommended. Now our 2 is probably going to be the borrower and co-borrower, or maybe just one of the 2 roles. Any roles that we select in this will not have different content. It will not address different people automatically. You would need to set up a separate template where you're addressing just the one role specifically in your content. So keep that in mind when you're setting up this piece of it. But in this case, we're just going to choose borrower and co-borrower. And we might actually just move the co-borrower down here to the CC line so that they get a copy of it rather than the actual 2. Now, we may want to get an email just to make sure that it goes out. We can use one of these 2 options. The first one here is using the sender's email address, whether it's a loan officer or the info app. We're going to send one copy back to that person for each copy that goes out. Now in this kind of a situation, it's a mass email, so we probably just want to do send a copy, and we'll use our info at email. So that we get one single copy going back to the info at email, and not 300 or 400 emails because of how we're sending this. We're going to set this in production mode so that it's live and ready to go. Then we're going to go over to our content, and we make edits over here. Anything that we needed to change as far as wording, insert codes if we wanted to change this one here from the, we have it as co-borrower first name. Maybe we want to change this to borrower first. So we want to change it to 67. Easiest way to do that is just highlight from star to star and go down here to the insert tag, and it's going to drop that in for me. I can also add additional codes if I need to. Very similarly, we just add a merge tag here at the bottom. We're going to choose whether we're using point for that field, or pulse, or external if we are using our external list to bring in some names, and we want to put those people's first name in the hello or dear line and address them by name. But we would choose our source, and then we can choose just by typing or by scroll what field we'd like to actually insert. And we already have several of them in most of the templates, so unless you're changing or removing that piece of the content, probably won't need to edit too much in terms of those merge content or merge pieces, unless, like I said, you want to add within your body that you're editing. Once you have your body completed, we'll go to the time frame. We have a number of options here, and when we send this, this kind of email may just be like a one-time send where we choose our date and time, and it's going to send then. If this is something that's going to happen over and over, maybe monthly or once a year or something like that, we want to remind people, we can set it up under our interval function, where we have that recurring event based on the way that you schedule it here, whether it's a monthly thing on a particular week, and week number and day, actually weekly, and we're just choosing the day that is going to be sent out, daily, or once a year. In any of these cases where it's recurring, the content does not change unless you edit it. So this may be useful for particularly your annual things, but you probably will want to come in once a month, once a year, whatever your time frame is, and maybe vary it up with a different image or something like that, as it doesn't create any sort of changes automatically. You would need to make those edits to the content specifically. In this case, we probably wouldn't use the calculated function for this type of an email, just because it's a notice. But the calculated function is where we can look at specific fields and decide, depending on the information that's provided in that point field or pulse field, whether we need to send the email or not. This is generally used with our point borrower date of birth field, and also co-borrower date of birth. And we would use the function anniversary in this box here, so that we would send out on the same day and month as that person's birthday. But we wouldn't really care about the year, because the day and the month would have to be today. We don't want to match the exact day, so we would never want to use the today function, because that says that the month, day, and year all has to match exactly what today is. Which with a birthday, you only care about the month and the day. Our other function that we use pretty frequently outside of today and yesterday is that the today difference function, and we generally use that with our closed or funded date. So if we want to have an email that goes out so many days after their closed date, or funded date, or some other event on the file, we use our today difference function, because that's saying with this function the difference or the time in days between today and whatever's in this box needs to be a certain value, certain amount. So if we said minus 30 days, we're saying between today and the close date there has to be 30 days. And we use a negative because the close date is in the past. We could do this type of function with a positive number, but that would mean that we have to have the close date in the file 30 days at least before their close date. And generally that doesn't happen with many dates within the file. You're not predating a bunch of things, so positive will probably be the less likely option with how you set up things. But you can choose any number of days to have this function think about. So 6 months would be like 180 days. If you wanted to do exactly 1 year, one time kind of thing, it would be 365, or any other combination of values in here to get that to run, or to get that difference in time that you're looking at. All of the interval and calculated functions here have a option for how many occurrences people get. So if you just want to have it continue to run and run and run, as long as that criteria is met, you leave it on unlimited. If you want it to end after so many events per person, we have this box here to end after whatever value you have in here per recipient. So it'll stop after 4 attempts, or not attempts, but sends per person, or 3 attempts or sends, or whatever you have chosen here. Most of the time that won't apply for calculated because those are very specific anyhow. But there are some occurrences where you do want to have that as one specific send. So it never hurts to just leave that as end after one event. But for other things that may happen over and over within your interval, like your Easter or Christmas or New Year's holidays and those kind of things, it may be worth it just to leave it as unlimited if you don't care to have that stop at a certain period of time. Now our days forward function actually works with the list itself that you've set up. You need to be kind of careful and have your list set up in a very specific way so that people join that list at a certain time or certain event on the file. Generally this particular function is used in combination with a manual list because you're always hand picking the file for when it needs to be added. And you can refer to our how to create a manual list video for that. But with this days forward function, whenever somebody joins the list, we've set here how many days or weeks after they've been added to that list that we want to send them this email. Now you do need to be careful because any people that are currently on the list when you set it up all have the same start time because they all joined the list the same day that you created it. There's not a filter that says these people were already here, we're not going to send it to them. So you want to be really specific and really careful about how you set up that list and how it populates, because you can, at least initially, oversend to more people than you intend to. Now at the bottom of this page we have our checkbox to permit duplicates. This is not a very common thing that people will use, but we did include it that way. If there are content that you do want to send multiple times to somebody for their multiple transactions with you, you can override our normal setup and have it send out multiple copies, for each event that they have with you. Otherwise, this box is always disabled, and we don't generally have that set up on any of our emails. So this is a function that you would have to select every time you would set up an email and want that function enabled. Once we have this completed, we'll go to our next, and this is just a confirmation of everything we have set up. So my trigger is actually not set. There we are. We can send a test email if we'd like, but we don't have to. But this is going to be a sample of the content, and once we're done, we will hit finish, and it will send us back out to the templates page where we can either turn it on or continue to edit or set up another piece of email.